Why games? Games because of the fact that that's what fuels our currency system. Like, it's one thing to own a bunch of stocks and property, but what's going on with it? Games tell the story of what's going on with money on a universal level. Um, Now, this is where they trick you at. Games kind of like spearhead our technology, and most of our technology that's presented to you, if it's in the store, it's usually been out for at least 20 years in advance. So I'm gonna give you an example. The system of Atari, the game system of Atari, I want to kind of focus on that. Came out in 72 from what they say, but according to research, I went into some of actually documents that are owned by South Americans. And this is before I even knew that actually Atari was owned by Atari South America now, actually, which is a French company. But they have records in South America of Atari being played in the 50s, actually as early as 1953, which I found on the dark web not too long ago. And I'm just saying that to say that this proves that this is going to go into Area 51, actually, but this goes into an experiment that took place centered around Philadelphia. It's interesting because soccer championship as well as the Major League Baseball championship has Philadelphia in it. Very important. Because of this Philadelphia experiment, which is where our technology, our currency, our internet, our banking system, pretty much our whole life is tied into this thing. And what's going to happen in 2024, what could happen in 2024, of which I'm not going to really too much go into publicly, but I've been speaking about this privately with people. And I was saying how privately, like, there's going to be a shift in 2024 when it comes to our experience in sexual energy, creating children, and that whole process. And this is why it's important to understand games and gaming, though, because this keeps you on the cutting edge and kind of like ahead of time when you get deeply into it, to help you to understand what's going on a mass level. Because how are you going to tap in and make money for yourself or, for your family if you don't really know what's going on? Because, like, nowadays, starting a business is kind of like a play. It's getting on the world stage. It's not what it used to be, where, you just kind of do it with your own personal good, and the best interest of all and that type of thing. Whereas now you have to have a whole systematic, damn near gaming network set up to make money in business because of the fact that these games and the stories that these games are telling. And I'm talking about all of them, NBA, all of it. I mean, I could go in detail, but I'm not, because we could just use the broadest perspective right now, which is soccer and baseball, and that proves what I'm saying right in and of itself. But when you look at these teams, they tell stories, essentially, is what's going on. So you have like land lotteries going on and land claims going on. And this is why it's important for you to understand gaming, because all of this stuff comes from, believe it or not, an old Russian technology that was taken by the United States back in the 40s, as early as the 40s, right after the so-called Philadelphia experiment, which actually teleported our time into the 80s to 1982 from our research. And but that's another story. I'm trying to cross-reference and cross-layer two stories at once, talking about our technology in reference to the Philadelphia experiment, which links to this 5G technology, of which ties you into like body computers and biological technology. So this is an experiment that took place, and it kind of shifted our time. So you had various experiments like in the 50s and namely in the 70s. You had experiments that take us into this time that's called Area 51 that could shift our time. Essentially is what it is. And it's really Area 510. I want to put this out here publicly too. It's not Area 51. They're tricking you. It's a zero added onto that. And they don't want you to know that. But that's another story. So this is the earliest time when technology started to come out. Going into the story of Area 51, which really took place over 500 or more years ago. This is how long we've been playing around with technology on this grid. So it's important to understand gaming because this puts you into the fold of like, well, so what do I do today? Like, if you wanted to get into this thing today, people always wonder that. Like, I mean, I hear all these videos, you're talking about a lot of stuff, but what if I would want to just get into this today on a mass level, a financial level, spiritual level? I would always tell you to look at what's going on, who hosts the championships for the various sports. Start with that. Is there a championship going on at this time? Which it is. This is a very important time. The World Cup is coming up. This is going to take you into credit and water and numbers in the matrix. And it's going to tell you a story of how we got here. And it's going to give you a way out. And the way out you may not like. It may be very uncomfortable because you may find that you're negative or even at zero or worse. And it's a way to get out of it, but you just have to accept that. See, you can say, well, I got $20,000, $200,000 in the bank, but you could still be negative though, because of the fact that your existence and what you're worth and what you've put into the matrix and based on what you've taken from it. See, we've taken more than we've put in. From when I'm studying most charts that I've been doing on this thing, but we've taken more than most of us than what we've put in, so most of us are negative. Like even with all the work that I've done, I'm even myself, use myself for an example, still at a state of zero. Not negative, but still at a state of zero. In a state to where no oxygen level, put it that way, nothing. And having to make something from that every single day. So learning this technology and jumping in where you and getting in where you can fit in and realizing that when you see something on the market, it's always 20 years in advance. It's always 20 years in advance. Any car, any form of technology, it's always something going on, either somewhere on this planet or other planets. When we start talking about Mercury soon again, or other planets, that they're experiencing this either in the future and they're way more advanced, or they're experiencing it from the past and updating and correcting our mistakes. Because we live in the now. There's some realities they live in what would be considered our past. We live in what's called the now, like, and we're affected by what's called the future, which is real. They try to say it's not. It's really the future is nothing but another time reference. Essentially is what it is, in a different time zone that eventually we'll meet or we won't meet. That's what it comes down to. You either meet, and if you don't, you got to go back. So that's how it works. I'm gonna go ahead and shut down. Stay up on that technology. Know where to get in. Namaste.